I was warned not to think. That was the first rule given to any human assigned to the Oralise court. Control your thoughts. Empty your mind. Do not imagine. Do not desire. Because the Queen of Oralise didn't just hear words. She heard truth. Her name was Queen Zyrith, ruler of the telepathic Oralise Dominion, an empire built not on weapons, but on minds woven together across light years. Entire civilizations had surrendered without a single shot fired, not because they were weak, but because resisting a species that could read intention itself was pointless. I was only there as a cultural liaison, a symbol, a political experiment, a human among mind readers, and the worst possible choice. Beginning, a mind that wouldn't stay silent. I tried to prepare myself before meeting her. Meditation, mental exercises, blankness. Nothing worked. Human thoughts were messy, loud, emotional. We didn't think in neat streams, we felt, and those feelings bled into everything. The first time I entered the Hall of Resonance, my heart was pounding so loudly I was sure she'd hear it echoing in my skull. She stood at the far end of the chamber, tall and radiant, her skin shimmering with faint bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in time with unseen neural rhythms. Her eyes were silver, unfocused, not because she wasn't looking, but because she was looking everywhere. I bowed as protocol demanded. "Approach," she said, her voice calm and dangerously gentle. I took a step forward. Instantly, the pressure hit. It wasn't pain. It was presence, like standing too close to a star. My thoughts fluttered, scattered, tried to hide. She frowned slightly. "Your mind," she said, "is allowed." "I'm sorry, Your Majesty," I said quickly. "Humans aren't trained for." "I know," she interrupted. "That is why you interest us." Interest in her tone was not reassurance. The unintended thought. The court proceeded as expected, formal greetings, discussions of trade, cultural exchange. I answered when spoken to. I kept my eyes lowered. And then I made the mistake. She stepped closer. The air shifted as her mental presence brushed mine. Not invasive, just there. Reflexively, instinctively, my thoughts flared. She's beautiful. The realization hit me at the exact same moment her eyes widened. Silence crashed over the chamber. I froze. The Queen inhaled slowly. "You find me beautiful," she said. It wasn't an accusation. It was wonder. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. I didn't mean, Your Majesty. That was inappropriate. She raised a hand, stopping me. "You meant it," she said quietly. Her gaze locked onto mine, something unreadable flickering behind her eyes. And then she smiled. The court erupted into murmurs. Middle, a dangerous curiosity. From that moment on, everything changed. The Queen requested my presence daily. Not for politics. For conversation. She asked about human art, music, love, fear. Why humans could feel so deeply without losing themselves to madness. "Your species carries emotion without telepathy," she said one evening as we stood overlooking the floating city. "We cannot hide from each other. You hide from yourselves and still survive." "We don't always survive," I said, "but we try." She studied me, mind brushing mine more often now. I learned how to feel her thoughts, not words, but impressions. Loneliness, restraint, a lifetime of hearing truth without consent. "You think of me when you sleep," she said once, not accusing, not teasing. I swallowed. I try not to. That effort itself is touching. That was when I realized the danger. A telepathic queen didn't fall for deception. She fell for honesty. And I was incapable of hiding mine. The touch. The moment that changed everything came during the rite of shared silence, an ancient Oralese tradition rarely extended to outsiders. You may refuse, she told me. Once minds touch fully, there is no pretending afterward. I'm already failing at pretending, I admitted. She smiled softly. Then come. We sat facing each other, knees almost touching. The chamber dimmed, external sounds fading. Do not resist, she whispered. Let me feel you as you are. Her fingers brushed my temple, and suddenly there were no walls. She felt my memories, childhood wonder, first heartbreak, fear of inadequacy, quiet hope. She felt my admiration for her, not as a ruler, but as a being trapped by her own power. I felt her in return. Endless responsibility, isolation, the exhaustion of never being lied to and never being loved without caution. Tears slipped from her eyes. You see me, she whispered. Yes, I breathed. And you deserve more than fear. Her mental presence wrapped around mine, not consuming, not controlling, understanding. Then she leaned close, her forehead touching mine, and whispered words directly into my mind. You meant every word. The consequences. The court panicked. A queen forming an emotional bond with a human was unprecedented and dangerous. Advisors warned of manipulation, of weakness, of scandal. She risks destabilizing the Dominion, they argued. She risks remembering she is alive, I replied, before I could stop myself. Xyrath dismissed them all. For the first time in centuries, the Queen made decisions not based solely on collective thought, but on personal conviction. She reduced forced mental linkages, introduced consent protocols, allowed privacy. The Empire resisted. Assassination attempts followed. I stayed, because leaving would have confirmed every fear they had, that humans only took and ran. One night, as alarms echoed through the palace, she found me preparing for evacuation. You could go, she said quietly. Your people would protect you. And leave you alone again? I asked. Never. She touched my mind gently, fear threading through her calm. I am not used to someone staying by choice. Get used to it, I said, smiling. Ending, a whisper that became a promise. Years passed. The Oralese Dominion did not fall. It evolved. Under Queen Xyrath's rule, telepathy became a gift, not a weapon. Truth was still valued, but silence was respected. And me? I became something new. Not a subject. Not a consort. A companion. Sometimes, we stood together in silence, minds brushing softly like overlapping constellations. One evening, watching distant stars, she turned to me. You think you are ordinary, she said. I am, I replied. Painfully so. She smiled, touching my temple again. In a universe where every thought is known, she whispered, you chose to be honest without being forced. Her words echoed in my mind, warm and eternal. You meant every word, and so did she.